Warning: the following context may include scary sequences of light horror and many thrills. Some gruesome descriptions involving children may be present in some chapters. Some material may be unsettling to certain audiences. But don't worry, everything will be okay. Probably. Chapter 15: The Witch's Cottage. Tori's Perspective. The path is surprisingly pleasant. A cool breeze accompanied by a scattered cloudy sky welcomes the new day. Birds and other creatures scurry through the sky and cornstalks. Heat from the sun warms my skin. Titi washed all of our clothes, so at least my outfit isn't so wet and muddy. In some ways, I'm enjoying this walk with my brother. Him and I don't spend a lot of time together, one-on-one. He works sometimes to help Mama pay the bills, and when he's not working, he's usually doing chores or out with friends. And when school picks up, he's often studying on the couch. That way he can help me and Billy with school if we need it. The peacefulness of the field nearly makes me forget we're not just walking through the trails of Dixie's house. I guess in some ways we might be, just the curse part of it. Wouldn't that be something, if all along we were just wandering Dixie's field? Looking more closely, the sky seems too perfect. The clouds look animated, perfectly placed in each spot, and unmoving. A sudden dropping feeling turns in my stomach. Something isn't right. "What is it?" Danny asks me, still holding my hand. I scrunch my nose and look to the left and the right. Danny follows my movements, probably looking for whatever I'm looking at. "I'm not sure," I say, "but something is not right." He huffs. "You mean like this whole place?" He smiles. "I'd have to agree." I wave his sarcasm away. "No, like actually right now," I point around us. "The clouds aren't moving. The sky is too perfect. The creatures went away. Do you hear any?" I pause and we both listen, but there is only silence. How can there be silence outside? "Okay, I see your point," he says, now looking around too. Are we stuck in some trance? Just then I look further into the cornstalks, and they too aren't moving. Are we frozen? "Do you smell that?" Danny says, sniffing around. I follow his actions. "It's like," I smell harder, "like herbs and a fireplace." "Wait," I say, snapping my gaze back to Danny. "The witch's cottage." We follow the scent until we are led to a little patch of grass and wooded area. A quaint little cottage sits perfectly in the center of the yard. Smoke brews from the chimney top, smelling of a lovely mix of herbs. The door creaks open the moment we step on the grass. I swallow hard, taking Danny's hand tightly in mine. "Let's hope she's not in one of her eating children moods," I say, trying to lighten the mood. As beautiful as the cottage and surroundings are, the perfectness makes it feel fake, which sends shivers down my spine. "What item are we looking for?" I ask Danny, and he pulls out a piece of paper torn from the book. "A specific broomstick," he reads out loud. "Charcoal-colored with a waxing moon carved in the wood." I nod. "Maybe she'll understand and she'll just let us borrow it," I shrug, trying to stay positive. "Sure," Danny says, tightening his lips. "That'll definitely happen." We walk slowly to the front door, knocking despite the door already being open. A black crow sits on the railing of the porch, staring at us. I wave sheepishly, hoping it doesn't attack us. "Hello?" Danny says, pushing the door open wider. The room is full of wooden walls and floors, an unthinkable amount of plants hanging from every possible place, and shelves covered in little bottles and dried herbs. "Is anyone home?" Danny calls out again. No response. "Okay, well, let's look then," I whisper. "Maybe she isn't home." Tiptoeing our way through the small cottage, we peek around, looking for any black broom that might appear. "May I help you?" A voice scares the life out of me. Turning quickly, I see a tall, muscular woman in a black flowy dress and witch's hat staring directly into my soul. She smiles, tilting her head to the side. "Hi," is all I'm able to mutter out. "Hello," she responds humorously. Are you lost? Looking for a spell? A thief? My eyes widen and I straighten up. Oh, no, I'm no thief, I say, although given the circumstances, I suppose that's not true. I am so sorry, Danny says, walking around a corner. My sister and I heard this is a good place for spells. She looks at him, up and down, seeing the human-like clothing, which probably looks weird here. It is the only place for spells, she tells him. If anyone says otherwise, I'll have to turn them into pond moss, she chuckles, laying her basket of flowers and fruit on the table. She plops down in an old wooden rocking chair. So, she sighs, what kind of spells do you need? For occasionally eating children, she seemed a lot nicer than I imagined. Well, Danny looks over at me, obviously looking for help. We are in need of a healing spell, I blurt out because I can't think of anything else. Her eyes grow bigger. Dear goblins, please don't tell me that terrible plague is back. She crouches over, holding her face in her palms. I don't have the time for that many clients again. There's no plague, I say, and she sits back up. Yeah, no plague, Danny says. It's our brother. He's sick. Must have eaten something bad. But he's been sick for like a week, and we wanted to know if you had anything to help him? I ask, completely making up every word. We really should have come up with a plan before getting here. The witch sits back in the chair, looking up at the ceiling. After what feels like an eternity of awkward silence, she folds her arms, looking back at me and Danny. Okay, I know what I can get you, but it's going to cost you. Of course, Danny says. You, she says, looking at me as a grim smile grows on her face. What about me? I ask slowly, shooken up from her sudden change in behavior. The witch stands to her feet, walking closer and closer to me until she is way too close for comfort. Reaching out, she twirls a handful of my hair in her fingers. You'll be the cost, she whispers in my ear. Absolutely not, Danny says, pushing her off of me. Oh dear, was I not clear? She says, straightening her dress. You agreed to the cost. No backing out now. Fear consumes my every part, causing me to freeze where I stand. Their voices become muffled and distant as Danny argues with the witch. Their figures become blurry as my eyes focus elsewhere. Something catches my eye, a black broomstick tucked in the corner of the ceiling, hung up as display with 3 hanging plants tied to it. Okay, I blurt out. Both the witch and Danny look at me in shock. I'll be the cost. Danny looks horrified and the witch smiles. Excellent, she says, pointing her hand at Danny, who then flies into the wall. But, I yell, placing my hand between her and me, he gets to walk away safe. Well, of course, she says. I'll still make the potion. I'm not one to break my promise. I nod nervously. Behind the witch, Danny stands back up. I try to think of a way to help him see the broomstick so we can make a run for it. I raise my hands, pretending to stretch and yawn. I'm sorry, I say. I'm just really tired from our trip here. I use one of my hands to point in the corner of the ceiling. Out of the corner of my eye, Danny looks in that direction. He nods back at me, understanding. Poor little you, the witch says, pouting out a lip in pity. We must get you well fed and rested then, shall we? A grimacing spark twinkles in her eye. Yes, I say slowly, backing up towards the window behind me. We shall. Do you have any other clothes I can borrow? She laughs, placing her hand on her chest. Oh dear, bless your innocent heart, she sighs. Behind her, Danny has a stick he is using to knock the broom from the ceiling. He seems to be struggling, so I try to think quickly with how to distract her. Do you have any more clothes? I ask, giving my tone a bit more sass. Her head tilts down and her eyes sink deeply into mine. You won't need any more clothes for your stay here. A thick gloss covers her lips as she licks them, looking me up and down. My every bone shudders. I don't want to be eaten. A shattering bang echoes through the room as Danny finally got the broomstick off the ceiling. However, he also caused 3 plants to come crashing down. Both me and the witch snap our heads towards the noise. Boy, she huffs, what on earth are you doing? Then I watch as her gaze falls to the broomstick, to Danny, and then back to me. Why, you little clank! Danny chucks one of the pots on her head, crashing her to the floor. Run! He yells, reaching his hand out towards me. Without hesitation, I leap over the witch and grab his hand. Knives and pots, glass bottles and blades fly through the air, scratching and cutting our skin. As I peek behind me, I see the witch holding her head with one hand, and with the other she waves it around, casting more items at us. Danny and I burst through the door, collapsing to the ground. Get up! Get up! He cries, pulling me to my feet. Do you have the broom? I scream as we dodge the blades and bottles. Yes! He yells back as we run as fast as we can, further and further from the cottage. We know we've reached safety once the clouds have begun to move again and the creatures return to their daily life. It must have been some type of curse she placed on her cottage and the lawn around it. The pounding in my chest is all I can hear. I am conscious enough to know that we are back to the trail, but my heart hasn't calmed down yet. Tori! Danny's voice feels distant even though I can see him directly in front of me. Tori, are you okay? He grabs my arm as a sharp pressure pulses through it. I look down and that's when I see it. A 3-inch chunk of glass has lodged itself into my arm. Blood gushes down, painting my hand red. It's going to be okay, Danny's voice echoes. Just sit down. I do as I am told. Danny looks frantically around the trail, but there is nothing to be found but endless cornstalks. I see the slow fade of black creeping into my vision as the pounding in my chest travels to my head. I don't look down again. I know I've lost a lot of blood. Gazing to my left, I see Danny pulling off his shirt, and before he can tie it around my arm, I fall over. Chapter 16. The Old Scarecrow. Dixie's Perspective. Tune in tomorrow.